My one piece of advice would be to know your why. Go back to those goals and make sure you're monitoring and celebrating those small wins. The thing that keeps most people stuck and keeps most people from moving forward is the distractions and second guessing themselves and not just saying, okay, here's my goal, here's my vision, here's my route. Let's go.
Hi, and welcome to the HackCess Show. It's the place where you can find life hacks on how to become the best version of yourself and achieve your goals. We show you how to walk the talk from successful people. And today we have Tiffany here. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
That's a pleasure. So you want to give us a quick overview of what you do just for the viewers?
Sure, absolutely. So I run a PR and branding agency, and I am a holistic business coach for female creative entrepreneurs.
Awesome. And so what is like your vision of success in general, you know?
That's a really good question. And especially because I've been on my entrepreneurial journey for 10 plus years. So I would say that my vision of success or my definition of success has probably changed over the years. And now I think my final definition, I hope, is success is achieved when you feel like you have are living in your truth, you're making an impact, and you have that financial freedom and creative expression freedom. I think it's so important as humans that we honor that part of we're not robots. We shouldn't be hustling 24/7. Money is not the be all end all. That being said, you know, when you can get to a place where you are doing something that really fulfills you, that hopefully makes a positive impact on the world and puts money in your bank account, I think that's kind of the sweet spot.
Yeah, definitely. And so you said like your vision changed along the way. So how was it in the beginning? And where was it like maybe wrong? Like maybe you focused on the wrong part of like success, you know?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think in my early stages as an entrepreneur, I was just really focused on the business. I wasn't really thinking about myself, my health, my well-being. I was in full on workaholic hustle mode. I have a tendency to go there, and it's really easy for me to get caught up in the doing of what I'm doing because I do like what I do. And so it's really easy for me to just get swept away and be like, but this is fun for me. When in reality, it's just as humans, we need downtime. We need time to just kind of like unplug. So that was my biggest mistake, is just not recognizing that there needed to be a better balance there.
Yeah, I think I did the same at the beginning. I think everybody does the same at the beginning. Once you have like a passion, you're like, I want to do this like all the time, you know?
Yeah. Especially in the beginning stages, you're just like so energetic and excited. And you think that like everything has to be done today, and it just doesn't.
Yeah. So how do you like find a good balance now? How do you like unplug at sometimes and just work hard and then chill for a minute? You know?
Oh God, that's a great question, because I'm a stickler on this. We should not be working 10, 12, 15-hour days, something I've been guilty of in the past. We should be unplugging on the weekends. And if you're not unplugging for at least, you know, if for a weekend, 2 days, you should at least be unplugging for 24 hours. Like, non-negotiable. That's a no-brainer. So personally, you know, I don't work late at night anymore like I used to. I used to just be like, oh, I'll just sit in front of the TV and keep working. I don't do that anymore. And if there is a season in my business where I need to be pulling in some later hours, or let's say I'm on a roll. Let's say I'm creating something and I'm in the zone and I don't want to stop. That's fine. But that means tomorrow morning, maybe I don't have to start at 8 a.m. Maybe I start at 10 a.m. Or maybe I stop working at 3 p.m. or something like that. Just kind of always being hyper aware of that burnout level and of recognizing that while yes, it might be easy for me to just keep going today, tomorrow I'm going to pay the consequences. So I'd rather stop today, let myself kind of unwind, and start with start feeling really refreshed tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. And do you think you get better with the years at like finding when you close to burnout moments?
Yeah, I think it's a muscle. And I think the more we flex it, the better we get at recognizing it. And so it's just like anything, when we're having to retrain our brain or retrain ourselves because we've developed a habit. I had developed a habit, work basically. And when we get to the point where we're like, hold up, that's not working. That's not pun intended. That's not serving me. You know, my business is not growing, even though I'm just keep working harder and harder. And we start to pull back on the throttle and say, okay, what happens if I do this? What happens if I do that? And we see the response. We kind of are like weaning ourselves into this new way of being. And I think the more we do it, the better we get. So for sure, I have moments where I'm still like catching myself and being like, okay, Tiffany, it's 7 o'clock. What are you still doing at your computer? You were supposed to quit 2 hours ago. And you just have to give yourself grace in those moments and say, okay, you know, like, sure, I worked a little harder than I maybe should have today. That's okay. I'll give myself a little bit of you know, of some grace in the morning tomorrow, and I won't rush to my computer or whatever it might be. But I do think we get better as we just continue to practice it.
Yeah, definitely. And for like somebody like me who works always on a computer, and I used to like watch shows and work at the same time, you know, like dual screen type of stuff.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I actually put stuff in my to-do list, you know, like I'm going to work like a little bit of time, and then I'm going to watch a show, and I'm going to sit on the couch and watch a show, like fully watching the show. You know? So do you do this kind of stuff too?
Yeah. And isn't it hilarious? Because for me personally, like I'll say, okay, tonight I'm just going to watch TV. I'm going to have my phone in the other room. I'm going to have my iPad in the other room. Like I'm not going to multitask. I had become such a habitual multitasker that sometimes I don't recognize that I'm doing it until I catch myself. And then B, sometimes I'm like, I don't know what to do with myself when all I have to do is focus on this one thing. So yeah, it's a learning curve for sure.
And do you think it's important, like on your, maybe your weekly goals, to actually set specific stuff, like not work related, like maybe I'm gonna like go for a hike or stuff like that too? Yeah,
absolutely. And I think I was just talking the other day about this, if I don't put it in my schedule, it doesn't get done.
Yeah.
End of story. So if I don't block out time on my schedule for my morning walk or yoga or whatever it is I've decided to make a priority that week, it just doesn't happen. And that's one of the reasons why I think, I don't know if you're familiar with ClassPass. It's like an online workout app, and you sign up to take classes at all the different, you know, workout studios in your area. And one of the reasons why I think it's so genius is because when you sign up and you say, okay, I'm going to commit to this Pilates class tomorrow at 2 o'clock, you get penalized if you cancel or if you don't show up. So it really does like hold you accountable to showing up to the class. And so it works really, really well because I'm like, okay, let me just plan it out for the week. These are the classes I signed up for. And now it's an appointment in my calendar. There's no like, oh, you know, I got busy. Like, no, it's an appointment in my calendar. But yeah, I think if we don't schedule it, if we don't make it a priority, it'll just continue to get bumped to the bottom of the to-do list.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's good to schedule even like the downtime and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
And do you have like other stuff in your daily routine that helps you like stay healthy and have a good mental and mindset and all that?
Yeah, I start every morning doing a pretty simple morning routine that requires or includes reading out of 2 different books. One is called Simple Abundance, and every day it's just, and actually she wrote it in Paris. The writer wrote it in Paris. And every day, or no, I'm sorry, different one. Simple Abundance. Did she write that in Paris? I forget. But every day it's a lesson of some sort on how we can live more authentically and how we can find joy in the small moments and the simple moments. So it's really all about slowing down and being grateful for what you have. And then there's a gratitude journal that accompanies it. So I read my entry for the day, and then I jot down 5 things I'm grateful for the day. And that is non-negotiable. That is how I start every day before I sit down at my computer. If I have time, if I'm really feeling like I need to make this a priority, I might do a simple little mini meditation, but I don't do that every morning. I'd be kidding myself if I said I did. I'd like to get to a point where I do that every morning, but I'm just not there yet.
Yeah, I used to do like 20-minute meditation in the morning, 20-minute like once I go to bed, like just before I go to bed. And actually now I don't do it anymore. And I just try to do like 20 minutes meditation during the day while I'm like doing stuff like doing the laundry or anything like this.
Yeah, I love that.
Breathing exercises, you know?
Yeah, I love that. And I do that. It's winter here right now, so I'm not walking as much as I used to, but I typically go on a daily walk as well. And I love doing like walking meditations where I'm just like maybe repeating a mantra to myself with every step, or just taking note of my breath with every step or something like that. I love that. It's just, it makes you feel so refreshed after it's said and done. It's kind of amazing.
Definitely. And I think it's more like it makes you self-aware, you know, like if you just you have to like between you doing like you're working or anything like that. And at the moment you have to be self-aware and be like, all right, I'm going to do some breathing exercises. So it's like you're working on 2 different levels, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's super nice too. And regarding work, like how do you set your goals and how do you like keep on like growing and all that, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's a big question. Setting goals is really all about deciding upon, okay, what's my financial freedom number? That's what I like to call it. What do I want to earn this year? Making sure that it feels like it's a little bit of a step in a growth direction from the prior year. And then I typically, at the top of the year, I'll say, what's my freedom metric for this year? How does that break down quarterly? What are my plans for different projects, products, services, whatever, offers? Where are they going to fall throughout the year? Make those adjustments to my quarterly plans. And then I break it all the way down into monthly plans and then weekly plans. Because I feel like if we don't set goals for ourselves and we don't know what we're working towards, it's really easy to get caught into the cycle of just do, even though you're like, what is this actually helping me? Is this or is this just busy work? So I feel I get an ego boost because I'm like, oh, I checked that off my list. But at the end of the day, like, did I even need to do that? Probably not. So yeah, I set big yearly goals, break it down to quarterly, break that down to monthly, and go even so far as like, okay, now what are my weekly tasks that are going to help me reach those goals?
Yeah, I do the same. I think it helps so much. Like instead, as you said, like instead of being busy, you actually get shit done, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
I even do like weekly, like daily goals just for like amount of protein I have to take, you know? So I'm a skinny dude. So I'm like, if I don't take my protein, I'm going to be end up like skinny fat all. So
I love that.
Yeah. So like daily goals. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. And if I'm in launch mode, I'll do that as well. Like I might have like, okay, my weekly goal. But for the most part, I try not to have like weekly sales goals for myself because that can get a little stressful. But I do, I just think it's so important that we break it down. And as creatives, I'm a creative. I work with creatives. Numbers are not always the thing that we love to look at or think about, but it's really empowering when you know your numbers.
Yeah. And you talked about, on weekly numbers and all that. So do you like struggle to get like on this competitive state, or do you don't mind, or how does it work?
I don't mind. It's funny that you asked that because I've always wondered, am I competitive? And I think the answer is yes. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs probably fall on the side of being naturally competitive, because let's be honest, to be an entrepreneur, we have to kind of be a go-getter for the most part. We have to be, what I think I saw a study the other day that said, like, I can't remember if it was 7% or 9% of the population are entrepreneurs. It was ridiculously small. And I was like, what? Okay. I didn't know I was that unique, but I think it's true. Like, we require self-motivation, and therefore, if we're not naturally competitive, then I feel like maybe it would be hard to be so self-motivated. So I don't have any problems when, being in that competitive state, holding myself accountable. I'm a big believer. And like right now I'm looking at my computer monitor and I have sticky notes on the bottom of my computer monitor. And if I'm prepping to go into a launch mode of some sort, I'll write down my goal. Like, what's my number? What do I want to reach? And not because I'm money driven, but because I want to know there's a reason behind this number. This is where I'm going. And this is, and I usually have a couple of mantras written underneath it as well. Like underneath the one I'm looking at right now, it says, I am serving my purpose. Because it's not just about a number. But I think it's so important that we stay visually aware of the goals and what we're doing, so we don't just kind of get caught up in this rat race.
Yeah, I think it's important to actually have like something in mind, like a number or something like that. So, like you're getting closer to your goal without getting like super obsessed about like your numbers compared to like other companies or stuff like that. And are you like aware of other people outside, your company, and like how they're doing this and all that?
Sure. A little bit, for sure. I think more than ever in the last 2 years, maybe even 3 years, I've become hyper aware of for lack of a better term, just like the negative contributions that social media can make on our lives and on our businesses. And seeing what everyone else is doing, more than anything, it can really muddy the waters and make you second guess every step of the journey. And the truth is, if I were to give like the biggest tip, secret, whatever in the world, I would say, keep your head down. Like, turn off the noise, turn off the distractions. Yeah, look around you every now and again just to make sure you're still in the same orbit. But for the most part, we don't need to be quite so consumed with what everyone else around us is doing, because it really does take us off track pretty quickly, or it creates a huge sense of self-doubt. It creates imposter syndrome. It creates perfectionism. All of those things are going to stop you from moving forward and hitting your goals and really and truly, hopefully, living your life's purpose and making the bigger impact. So if we want to get really like big about it, like you getting distracted means less people are going to be able to benefit from whatever it was you were going to bring to the table. That sucks, you know? So I look around, and of course I'm active on social media, but I really try my best to stop the consumption game and just do what works for me, do what feels good to me. And that's what I coach as well. I'm like, look, I can teach you, there's 5 different ways to get from A to B. You decide what feels good to you, and then let's go. Like we're not going to change our mind. Let's put it in motion and get to that point.
Yeah, I think it's super important. Like at some point I was like against social media again, like I think it was like a year ago, like a couple of years back. And I was like, man, social media is like killing. It's so much noise. That there is so much stuff. Like they put out so much YouTube videos every single day. You can't even watch it, you know? And yeah, and I think it's just a healthy competition with yourself that you have to have, you know? It's just like basic competition, but keep like all you do is all about the creative like side of things, you know, and not trying to find out what the other guy did and what's his number and all that. And because as you said, you have like each individual has a vision. So there are multiple ways to get there, but you have to be true to yourself, I think. Yeah,
there really are so many ways to get from point A to point B these days. And, you know, and you hear it all, micro offers rule, only do high ticket offers. Like, I mean, you know, you just hear it everywhere. So I think the thing that keeps most people stuck and keeps most people from moving forward is the distractions and second guessing themselves and not just saying, okay, here's my goal, here's my vision, here's my route, let's go. And if it doesn't do as well as I wanted it to do, I can try a different route next time. But I need to have a starting point and a finish line, and I need to get there. I need to show myself I can do this before I start to try to perfect the system. And I think people want to just like jump straight to perfection. Like, oh, I want to have the perfect first launch. And that's just, it's just not doable. Like nobody starts that way. And I always use I use the analogy of, or, you know, the example of Apple, because we all know it. We all know what the first iPhones look like, and we all know what they look like now. So they've evolved over time, and they just kind of keep tweaking it. And some people might not love where it's gotten to, but for the most part, every evolution of that device is because of customer feedback. It's because new technology, what do the customers want? They want better cameras. They want, you know, yada, yada, yada. So if we look at that and we think, well, Apple, what if they never launched it until they got their version of perfect? It would have never existed. And it's the same thing for whatever it is you're doing. I don't care if you're creating a yoga course or, you know, making an app or whatever, it's the same concept.
Yeah. I think it's super important to actually like never wait for having like the perfect product, because it's never, first of all, it's never going to happen. So you're always going to have feedback and stuff like that. So you just got to keep on moving. And
momentum.
And do you have like this ultimate vision in mind that you like contemplate maybe every single day or like weekly or monthly that you want, like, I want to, that's the way, like, that's the place I want to go to, you know?
It's funny you ask that because I preach this so much, but I got to be honest, right now, I'm only 1 year into my business coaching program as it stands to date. So I, by no means do I believe it's perfect. Do I know it's better than it was 1 year ago? Absolutely. Does it work? Absolutely. Do I have a very crystal clear vision of where it's going? No, ironically enough. And the reason is because I've really kind of surrendered to the process for the last year and said, I'm going to create something that works, but I'm not going to pigeonhole myself into what this is ultimately going to look like just yet, because I really need to get in there and feel it and feel what feels good for me as at this stage of my career. What do I want to do? What do I want to be? Do I want this to be a program that I can bring in other coaches and I'm no longer, you know, the hub and the center? Do I want this to become an online self-led thing? Yes and no. So I'm still kind of letting it evolve. I have a pretty like vague vision of where this is going. But I'm really trying to do something different and really surrender to the process.
Yeah, I think it's super important to enjoy the process and not necessarily, you know, it's good to have goals, but it's always like a balance in life. There is no like one answer, and unfortunately, but I think you have to manage like with yourself, and if you want to set goals, but like you want just to surrender to the process. I think it's a great way to put it, especially when you develop a product and you're trying to make it better. You don't know like what the next iteration or like the next 10 iterations are going to look like. So just go with it. Yeah.
And it's been a beautiful, I gotta say, it's like, this has been the most fun year of my entire career. Ironically, right? It has been the most fun year of my entire career.
And so this is pretty much what you love. And do you have like other passions and that, you know, sometimes that are distracting yourself from like the main job that you have, especially for like entrepreneurs who like to create side hustles and businesses and all that? Do you think it's important to not like stay on your true path? You know?
As somebody who used to be running multiple businesses at the same time, I can say that doesn't usually work out very well. No, right now I feel pretty focused. I want to write a book one day, but I'm not there yet, and I'm not head down in that idea just yet. I kind of just keep it on the back burner, and as ideas come to me, I write them down. I jot them down in a little notebook. But yeah, my goal, I mean, in an ideal scenario, 3 years from now, I'll be in the south of France in a beautiful little chateau, and I'll be writing my novel. That would be amazing. But right now I'm just super focused on the program I've been developing, the coaching I've been doing. You know, literally my goal that I have written down every time I launch my group coaching program is create results. Like, I don't care about anything other than my students having the result that they signed up for. And that's what's made this so fun for me, because, you know, when that's my goal, or if, you know, whatever it is, if that's your goal, then of course you're going to be fulfilled and happy and grateful, and, you know, and your people are going to be happy and fulfilled and grateful. And I just don't know how you can go wrong.
Yeah. I love your mindset. It's super healthy, and like you have like this growing mentality. And how do you like keep on doing it like every single day? You know, do you have like mentors, or do you?
I have mentors. I also have a yoga teaching certificate. So I went through, like, I've been on my own wellness journey for the last probably, 5 years. I've been a yogi for 20 plus years. And that mindset, if you're not familiar with like yoga, aside from the physical, yoga also has a very huge mental component to it. And it's really how I live my life. And it's how I've been living my life for a long time. And when I hit rock bottom, if you will, from an entrepreneurial standpoint of just being so burnt out that I was like, something has to give, I brought in my first business mentor. Again, I think that was about 5, maybe going on 6 years ago. And then about 3 years ago, I brought in my second mentor. Again, she changed the game. Like, my first mentor, he changed the game for me. My second mentor changed the game for me, just from a perspective of what I thought I was capable of, what I was doing, what I was asking for, just big picture stuff. And now I'm in a mastermind right now as well with another mentor. I'm a huge, I walk the walk. And so that helps me. Yoga helps me. Like I said, meditation helps me. I'm looking right now. I have this is one of my meditation books that I pop open and keep on my desk, because, mindset is everything. It really is everything. So I'm by no means perfect, but I have put a lot of work into getting to the point that I'm at today.
That's good. Yeah. And is there like a big mistake that you made in the beginning that you didn't see until you got the mentors and all that, and that you see people making also? That's like a huge mistake.
Yes. Okay. We'll talk a little bit more like business specific, if that's okay.
Yeah.
My biggest mistake I made in the beginning, and I really do believe that this is what caused the burnout. Had I approached it differently, maybe I wouldn't have reached the level of burnout that I reached. But my biggest mistake in the beginning, again, I think I mentioned this already, I'm a creative. And so when I started my PR and branding agency, it was 2011. And I just was like, I'm going to help people. I've got all these creatives who want to hire me to do their PR and branding, and it's going to be great. And I did not really have any structure. I didn't have a business background. I have entrepreneurial parents. So in hindsight, I recognize that that's probably what gave me the gumption to do it to begin with. But I didn't know, it just was like, I'm literally one of those people who just jumps. Like, I have an idea. It seems great. I'm inspired. Let's go, which I also recognize is not normal. But I didn't have any structure in place. And I by no means had systems in place. And I think the lack of systems was the death of me. So when I started growing and I had contract employees, part-time employees, full-time employees, I got into the rat race of constantly answering questions And instead of feeling like work was getting off my plate, I felt like I was drowning. I was like, now I'm the hub of the business, and all these spokes on the wheel are constantly knocking on my door, asking for more. And I was just, I was like, I can't keep doing this anymore. And I ended up making a hard decision, which was completely restructure the agency, let everybody go back to how it was when I had first started out. So I basically said, let me go back 5 years ago. What was I doing? What was I building? Let me go back to just me 5 years ago. Let me kind of like downsize my clients and let me rebuild this thing in a way that it can be sustainable. So now I'm a big believer in systems, because systems saved me. Like, systems gave me back my sanity, gave me back my free time, and helped me create a structure that I could, step away from. And because of that, I was able to go spend a month in Paris, or last 2 years ago, I spent a month in Bali. And, these things this was why I started my own business, was for freedom. But I was felt like I was, completely, in prison, basically. So systems, short answer.
And do you think it's important, like, I want to break down like all you said, but do you think it's important when you have a system in place to actually like get out of your comfort zone and try something new, like to always maybe try to find something that you like better, and that you can actually like, you can improve the system if you find something that works, you can add it to the system and grow?
Yeah. I think it is important. I think it's important that when we're in the startup mode and we're documenting a system, that we kind of stick to it, and we test it enough to know, does this work? If it works, great. Now it's just a matter of like tweaking something small and, over here, versus completely revamping the system, because then we really want to be able to compare apples to oranges as we grow, so that we're growing in a really smart way, and we're not trying to reinvent the wheel every time that we're doing something. But at the same time, like you said, we should be looking for ways to improve it, ways to make it even better. And I just believe that needs to happen through small, steady tweaks, adjustments, not like huge overhauls, unless obviously your system has failed you. And then by all means, start from scratch.
I think it's important when you have something that works to not like go crazy and throw it away and try something new. It's good to, as you said, like little steps and just like take it easy. And for sure. And how do you deal with patience being an entrepreneur? I know it's sometimes it's really hard to wait for the results, and you're like, I wish it's gonna go, like, come sooner, So how do you deal with patience in general?
I think that all comes back to having those smaller goals, so that you can see that you're building momentum. And that's, again, a huge downfall when you don't set goals for yourself and you're just kind of in this constant go mode, and then things aren't progressing as fast as you wish they were. You have a tendency to just quit because you're like, what's not working? But maybe if you were studying your numbers, you would have looked back and noticed, oh, wait, I've been building momentum every week, every month. It is working. I just have to be more patient. So that's, that's probably step one, is like, go back to those goals and make sure you're monitoring and celebrating those small wins. Because when we work for a large company, I don't know if you've ever been in corporate America, or, well, not corporate America, corporate France, or corporate America, or corporate of anything. You'll notice that they have these like awards and things that they do to award people, or they might have incentive packages. And if you meet this goal, you get a bonus vacation, or you get $100 or whatever it is. And I used to think that was so silly. I remember being like, this is so annoying and so silly, and I don't want this award, and I don't want this award ceremony, or whatever it was. But now, as an entrepreneur, I look back at that and I'm like, oh, as humans, we need things to keep us motivated. Because again, I can't say it enough, we're not robots. We need these moments in the journey that remind us that we're headed towards something bigger than this day-to-day task. So I say, if you're an entrepreneur, you kind of have to come up with something to reward yourself along the same lines. And again, this is where the goals come in, because if you've set your goals, then you have reasons to reward yourself. But I was just chatting with one of my students last night, and she was having to kind of do something that she wasn't in the mood to do, and she was tired. And, it's like, this is real moment, real life, right? And I said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to take 20 minutes right now, go pour yourself a cup of tea, turn off all the distractions, all the noise, reset. And then in about 30 minutes, it's your start time, because you had an appointment. So that's going to come here before you know it. You're going to like breeze through the appointment, because once the momentum kicks in, everything else kind of becomes a little bit easier. And then when it's done, you're going to reward yourself, whether that is take a long bath, order takeout, watch an old movie. I don't care. It doesn't have to cost you anything. Just decide right now, what's your reward? And that way, when you're done, you can realize, oh, this is what it means to show up even in the hard times.
Yeah, definitely. I think like it resonated with me, like the part you said about like rewarding the small wins. When I was working in New York, I was working, like my company was working with a lot of university, like NYU and all that. And everybody seemed like so happy, like the staff at universities, and they had like this contest and events and all that. So like basically they're like the day-to-day was like, it was meeting, like back-to-back meeting and like work stuff, but it was like fun stuff at the same time. And I think like when you work for yourself, it's hard to implement like a system like that when you get rewarded once you do, like you get the job done. And yeah, I think it's a super good advice to actually celebrate the small wins to to make the journey more enjoyable.
Yeah. I have a friend. I mean, I think it's brilliant. I would like to adopt this for myself. It's not my idea, but I have an entrepreneurial friend, and she sets a quarterly like little staycation or retreat where she books a hotel room, and she goes there at the end of every quarter to kind of celebrate the success. But then she also uses it as her time to prep for the next quarter goals, evaluate them, look at them. Do they still feel right? Is there any adjustments she wants to make? So she kind of just like takes herself on a little vacation. And I'm like, that's genius. I want to do that.
That's actually such a good idea. I'm like, all right, that's a good one. Yeah, you can actually like enjoy and reward yourself, and then you can get a head start, and you set your goals for the next quarter. That's actually genius. Yeah,
I know. I'm stealing it.
Me too. All right. Let's say one last question. What do you think is like the one advice you want to give to people, to like entrepreneurs? Maybe like something you haven't done like really well from the start, and that you realize like a little late, like, oh, I should have done like that better from the start, you know? Do you have like an advice like that you want to give?
Yeah. My one piece of advice would be to know your why. And you've probably heard this before, but know your why. And if you're listening and you don't know what your why is, stop everything right now, go figure out your why, and then get started again. But know your why. And your why is more than just like what you do. It's who you do it for. It's what the result is that you want to have on the other end of the line. It's what makes it. I like to think of it as this. People always ask like, what would you do if money was no object? Well, that's easy to answer, because if money was no object, we wouldn't have to worry about making money. So we might go like, oh, I'll just go hike the world. Okay, great. What would you do if you weren't getting paid to do it? I think that's a better question, because that's going to get into the heart of like, what would you do, show up to do if you knew that like you weren't going to get paid for this, but this is what you were going to spend the rest of your life doing? What would you do? And the sweet spot is when those two answers align. When what you would do if money was no object and what you would do if you weren't getting paid are the same thing, then you know you're in alignment. And okay, now this is my focus. This is my why. Now let me go out and do that. So know your why. That's my number one piece of advice.
I think it's a very good advice too. Like the why is super important. Yeah, for sure. All right, Tiffany, thanks so much for doing this. It's your time, so it's promo time for you. Let us know where we can find more about you and all that.
Oh, awesome. Yes. Okay. I'm at TiffanyNapper.com, and on Instagram, I'm at Tiffany Napper. So you can find me in either of those two spots. And this was so fun, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for doing this. And you had like amazing answers, all your advice. And I'm going to steal this idea of the staycation / set goals.
Keep me posted. Let me know where you go. I'll do the same.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much again, and talk soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.